with Ali, and today I am going to do a lesson on grammar. So particularly subordinate clauses or dependent clauses. So this is more of an intermediate to advanced English lesson, but if you're a beginner and you want to challenge yourself, go ahead. I am going to add a document, so if you want to download this, you can follow along with my lesson. And don't forget to check out, I've got lots of other videos on grammar. It's one of my favorite things to teach. Let's get started. Subordinate clauses. These are parts of sentences that make your boring old small simple sentences more interesting. They make your writing and your speaking more colorful. So if you learn how to use these really well, your speaking and your writing are going to be much more interesting. What are subordinate clauses? Let's take a sentence. You've got there is a dog. This is a very simple sentence, right? You've got your subject, there, is your verb, and a dog is your object. Is this an interesting sentence? Not really. There is a dog, so what? So if you add a subordinate clause, so if you add more information onto this sentence, it will become more interesting. So, for example, there is a dog that loves to chew books and pee in my shoes. That is an example of a more interesting sentence, and it's got a subordinate clause in there. So there is a dog is the base sentence, and then I have added another clause in there, but it is dependent on the base clause. You can't just say that loves to chew and pee in my shoes. You have to have that first sentence for the other sentence to make sense. And that is the word that connects the clause to the main clause. Okay? So that is replacing, that is acting as the subject. So that is replacing the dog. The dog is that loves to chew books and pee in my shoe. So it's got one subject and it has two verbs. Have I lost you? I hope not. I'm going to dumb it down a little bit. I'm going to break these subordinate clauses into all the different types of subordinate clauses, and then I will give you a bunch of examples as well. A subordinate clause has its own subject and it has its own verb, okay? But they cannot stand alone. They have to be connected to the main clause. So subordinate clauses are known as dependent clauses. Something that depends on something cannot stand alone. It can't be by itself. It has to hold on to something else. So a subordinate clause cannot exist by itself. It has to hold on to the main clause for its full meaning. And a subordinate clause functions to add additional meaning or information to the sentence. Let's give you another example. The dog that I saw in the park was eating chicken bones, even though they are not good for dogs. So let's break this sentence apart. It's a pretty long sentence. If you can tell, it's got one main clause, so it's got the main subject and the main verb, and then it actually has two subordinate clauses. If we break this sentence apart, the main clause is the dog was eating chicken bones, right? That's the main clause. That can stand by itself. But I have added more information. So the dog that I saw in the park is one subordinate clause. That, I is the subject, saw is the verb in the park. That's the first subordinate clause, and it is modifying the dog. It's giving you more information about the dog. So if I say the dog, you'd be like, which dog? Oh, the dog that I saw in the park was eating chicken bones. And then you could say, oh, why was it eating chicken bones? Or chicken bones aren't good for dogs. So then I've added, even though they are not good for dogs. So this is giving you more information about the chicken bones. So that's what subordinate clauses do. They give you more information, sometimes about the noun in the sentence, sometimes about the verb in the sentence. There are 3 types of subordinate clauses. So there are some that give more information about the noun, some that give more information about the verb. So the first one is called an adjective clause. So these are all subordinate clauses. The first one, adjective clause. So these clauses act like adjectives. So adjectives give more information about the noun, right? They describe a noun. So an adjective clause gives you more information about the noun. It modifies the noun in a sentence. So an adjective clause often begins with a relative pronoun. For example, who, which, that, or whose. So let's give you a couple examples of adjective clauses. The book that I read was fascinating. So the book was fascinating. That I read is the adjective clause. It's a subordinate clause, and it's giving you more information about the book, right? And that is the relative pronoun that you use to introduce the adjective clause. Another example, the person who won the race is my friend. So the person is my friend. That's the main clause. Who won the race is the adjective clause. So who is the subject, won is the verb. Who won the race? And the last one, I saw a girl who had her hair in pink braids. So for this sentence, the adjective clause is actually modifying the object in the sentence. I saw a girl. I is the subject, saw is the verb, a girl is the object, and then the adjective clause is giving more information about a girl. So which girl? The girl who had her hair in pink braids. So who is the subject? Had is the verb. Her hair in pink braids is the object. All right, so that is an adjective clause. Gives you more information about the noun. It can be the subject or the object in a sentence. The next type of subordinate clause is an adverb clause. Do you remember what an adverb is? Gives you more information about the verb. So it modifies the verb in the sentence, okay? So these clauses act as verbs, modifying the verbs, adjectives or adverbs in the main clause. They answer questions like, when did this happen? Where did it happen? Why or how? Some common subordinating conjunctions for adverbial clauses include, so these are the the words that introduce the adverb clauses, those are words like because, although, while, or since. So let's give you some example of adverb clauses. I ate quickly because I was running late. So the main sentence, the main clause is I ate quickly. And then the adverb clause answers the question, why? Why did you eat quickly? Because I was running late. So it gives you reason about why you ate quickly. It modifies ate. Another adverb clause, she danced gracefully as if she was floating on air. The main clauses, she danced gracefully. Okay, and then as if she was floating on air modifies the danced, right? It gives you more information about how she danced. So, how did she dance? As if she was floating on air. So those are two adverb clauses for you. They give you more information about the verb. So the third type of subordinate clauses are noun clauses. So these clauses actually function as a noun. They act like the noun. They don't give you more information about the noun. They are the noun, okay? So they often begin with words like that, whether, or if. So for example, here are some noun clauses. I wonder if they will eat all of the cake. So here, the noun clause is part of the main clause, okay? I wonder is the main clause. I is the subject, wonder is the verb, and the noun is the whole noun clause. If they will eat all of the cake is what I am wondering. The next one, his question is whether you want to go out for dinner. So here, his question is the subject, is the verb, and then the noun clause is the object of the sentence. Whether you want to go out for dinner is what the question is. And I'm going to give you one more. I saw that you weren't home. So I is the subject, saw is the verb, and that you weren't home is what I saw. So it's the object of the sentence. So it's acting, this noun clause is acting like a thing. It's acting like the noun in the sentence. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment. If you are liking this video so far, please let me know. Like, subscribe, and check out my other videos. I just wanted to go over a few more words that you can use to introduce a subordinate clause. So there's lots of them. They're called subordinating conjunctions. So here are some common, so lots that you can hear every day of subordinating conjunctions. There are some that show you time, when something happened. After, before, while, when, as soon as. So for example, we ate after they left. So that shows you time. Another subordinating conjunction can show cause or reason for something. So these can be because, since, as, or so that. So an example of this, I love Johnny because he is so handsome. So because it shows you the reason why I love Johnny. Another is shows you condition. So it means if this happens, right? So if, unless, provided that, I will go if you give me a candy. So I'll only go under this condition. Concede, concession means to like give in to something. So although or though, even though. I bought the dog even though we weren't quite ready for one. So I bought the dog is the main sentence. Even though we weren't quite ready for one is the subordinate clause. And it shows that you gave into something even though you weren't ready for it. Purpose shows why or why something happens, so that in order that I bought another ticket so that you could come to the show as well. So I bought another ticket is the main clause. So that you could come to the show as well is the subordinate clause. It gives you more information about why you bought it. A subordinating conjunction can show comparison, comparing two things. So as if, as though, then. So he laughed as if he had no cares in the world. So that's showing a comparison. Manner is how something is done. As or as if, as though, depends on the context. She smiled as a clown smiles. So it's showing how she smiles. Place also, where, wherever, and everywhere. We went where no one has gone before. So those are just examples of some subordinating conjunctions that you can use. So punctuation, how do you write these clauses? So when a subordinate clause appears at the beginning of a sentence, it is always followed by a comma. So for example, before I left, this is the subordinate clause. Before I left, comma, I checked my email. So the comma comes after the subordinate clause. But if the subordinate clause is in the middle of a sentence, you do not need a comma. I checked my email before I left. I love Johnny because he is so handsome. So because he is so handsome, because is in the middle, you don't need a comma. But if the subordinate clause comes first, because he is so handsome, comma, I love Johnny. That's pretty easy to understand, I think. I'm going to give you a really quick little quiz here. I want you to tell me if this is an adjective clause, an adverb clause, or a noun clause. She sings beautifully because she loves music. Do you remember what that one is? It's telling you about the noun, the verb, or is it acting like a noun? It is telling you more about the verb, right? Why she sings. She sings because she loves music. The car that I bought is red. Is that an adjective clause, adverb clause, or a noun clause? It is an adjective clause because it gives you more information about the car. So the car that I bought, so which car, it tells you which car it is red. And his answer depends on whether he can attend the meeting. So this is a noun clause because whether he can attend the meeting is acting like the object of the sentence. I hope that that helps you understand subordinate clauses a little bit. Once you know how to use them, you can make your writing so much more interesting, more colorful. One more thing about subordinate clauses, if I haven't lost you yet, is there are also restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. So that means if the subordinate clause is essential to the meaning of the sentence, then you do not put commas around it. But if it is not essential to the meaning of the sentence, it's just some extra information that you threw in there just because, then you do put a comma around the subordinate clause. A restrictive clause is called an essential clause, so it is important. You have to have it in there. Non-restrictive means that it's non-essential. It's not essential to the meaning of the sentence. So, for example, I enjoy watching movies that show lots of special effects. So, that show lots of special effects, is that important to the meaning of the sentence? Yes, it is, because it tells you what kind of movies you like to watch, right? So I would say this is an essential clause. It is a restrictive clause. It has to be in there, so you don't need commas. So non-restrictive, so for example, watching Star Wars, which has lots of special effects, is my favorite thing to do. So, which has lots of special effects is not actually essential to the meaning of that sentence. Watching Star Wars is my favorite thing to do. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Which has lots of special effects, that's just more information about Star Wars. It gives you more information about the subject, but it's actually not essential to the meaning of the rest of the sentence. So if that's the case, then I would put commas around that subordinating clause. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask me in the comments. It's can be a little tricky. I don't think that you have to worry about it too much. Definitely not when you're speaking. And when you're writing, people aren't usually super strict about it. Anyways, those are some subordinate clauses for you. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. See you for my next video.